And it's Arcanine PC. We're by far the greatest team that the world has ever seen. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? You can call me Kagai. Welcome back to another video here on the channel. And if this is your first time here, then welcome to you. For those of you guys who may have not have seen, I recently joined a Pokemon Draft League. I joined the DAPL underneath the team named the Washington Woobats, but I did mention I wanted to get my own team kind of going, so I was presented with the opportunity to join another league by my good friend Nahaima, aka Ethan. You guys have probably seen him around the streams before and everything. And for this, I wanted to try and create my own kind of team logo. So because of that, we are going to be going forward with the Arcanine PC or Arcanine Pokemon Club team using the logo here that I will put on screen hopefully now. Actually, no, the logo's not ready yet. I just lied to you. So the logo's not ready yet, unfortunately. Hopefully it'll be ready very, very soon. I'll post it in the community tab when it's done. I was hoping it'd be done by this weekend, but I want to get this up this week, and sadly, artists take time, so completely understandable. It happens. But hopefully, I'll get that soon enough, and I'll have that in the community tab for you guys. But we're going to be going by Arcanine PC or the Arcanine Pokemon Club as a playoff one of my favorite soccer teams, Arsenal FC or Arsenal Football Club. I thought it would be a good little fit, something that I really love, and I just thought it would be a good way to incorporate one of my favorite Pokemon. I thought it kind of went well together. So your Arcanine your Arcanine PC are going to be joining the NBA, not the National Basketball Association, unfortunately. We're not quite there yet. I don't know what any of this is. We're not quite there yet. But we are going to be joining the Nahaima Battle Association run by my good friend Nahaima, Ethan, under the Arcanine PC mantle. So we are super excited for this. I'm going to be running 2 draft leagues at once. So the way uploads are kind of going to work for this is the NBA uploads will go up on Saturday and the DAPL uploads will go up on Sunday. So you guys will have 2 draft league videos all throughout the week and stuff. And just like before, team builder followed by the battle. And then starting off now, we're going to give you guys a breakdown of the Pokemon that I picked for this draft league. I was pick number, let me see if I can find the exact number. I want to say 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, I was pick 10. So I was pick number 10 out of 16. So again, middle of the board. Exactly where Kai loves to be, he said with the utmost of sarcasm in his voice. So I knew for sure I wanted to get a broken Pokemon pretty early on. I wanted something that I haven't really used before. I wanted something that could hit really hard, also was really fast, and make sure I could, like, have a very nice, solid sweeper going around. And originally the Pokemon I was going to pick was Dragapult. I know, boo this man, boo him, boo him, boo him. But I actually did not go for Dragapult. I went something more fun that I thought could be really interesting, has a bit more utility as well. And still can also hit really hard while being not quite as fast as Dragapult. But I do like that it has a wider range of abilities that I can use as well. So I went ahead and for my first pick, your Arcanine PC's first ever pick as a team, we picked Sneasler. No, I'm just kidding. We picked Sneasler. I have wanted to use this thing for so long, it's not even funny. This Pokemon is so freaking good, dude. It is insane how good this Pokemon is. So this Pokemon has a couple of bans associated with it, just as a heads up real quick, so I'll get those out of the way. So this Pokemon is Tera banned, so I cannot Terastallize Sneasler, and Dire Claw is actually banned. So a little unfortunate there, but it does have other moves that it can use in place of Dire Claw. It's just the 50% chance on Dire Claw is just so good, man. But a little bit too OP in my opinion, so it makes sense why they banned it. But we've got here a Sneasler. It's kind of going to be one of our bread and butter sweepers for the season. Because look at these stats, y'all. Base 130 attack, 120 speed. It hits super hard and is super fast. Its defenses might not be great, although base 80 speed def isn't too bad, coupled with the base 80 HP on this thing. But base 60 defense is pretty mediocre. So we got to be careful of physical attackers and stuff. But that base 130 attack and 120 speed allows it to hit super hard. With 3 really good abilities, Pressure will probably be the one that we run the least, unless I want to run like a sub-toxic stalling Sneasler. That could be an idea. But for the most part, we're going to be running Unburden, which either doubles our speed once our held item is lost, which you'll see some synergy for that later. Or we could run Poison Touch, which makes all of our moves have a 30% chance of poisoning the target, which could be super clutch for some extra chip and passive damage. There's a lot of stuff that we can do with this. So for Poison Touch, we could just use that to hit pretty hard, maybe like a Swords Dance set, while also getting off a little bit of extra chip damage on the opponent if they feel like switching into us and possibly getting poison. And then Unburden, when our item is used, we double our speed essentially. So if we had something like a Citrus Berry, for example, after we eat our berry and get healed, our speed doubles. The same thing can be said for like a Focus Sash. So if I ran Focus Sash Sneasler with like Focus Sash SD, Poison Jab, Close Combat, all that cool stuff, I could then double my speed after the Focus Sash, effectively making me the fastest thing on the field, even faster than a Pokemon like Dragapult. So it does have some extra utility that'll give it that little bit of speed. Or maybe one thing I could do is run Grassy Seed, because as you're going to see later, we might have some synergy with this. So Grassy Seed, whenever there is Grassy Terrain up and this Pokemon switches in, it gets a +1 boost to its physical defense. Sneasler's physical defense is pathetic, so this actually works out really well for us and gives us a little bit of extra tiny bulk that might help us eat an extra hit or so here and there. As for moves it gets, Acrobatics is phenomenal. Whenever you're not holding an item, its power doubles from 55 to 110. 110 base power flying type move is really good, and it pairs really well with Unburden specifically, because after we use our item, get our double speed, then our Acrobatics is hitting twice as hard now. So Grassy Seed gives us a +1 to defense, our Unburden doubles our speed, and then our Acrobatics attack gets doubled in power. So that is just a huge train of things that are happening all at once that make this Pokemon so difficult to deal with and hit so freaking hard. It is honestly so good. If we wanted to run Brick Break for, what's it called, we could, Screens, as well as Veil. Calm Mind Sneasler, definitely coming this season, for sure, guys. Close Combat, bread and butter fighting type stab, 120 base power, does lower our defenses, but that's fine. Hits super hard, has Fake Out, so I could Normal Gem Fake Out if I wanted to with Unburden, or Normal Gem Fake Out plus Poison Touch to get off a free 30% chance to poison on something. Dire Claw, unfortunately, is banned. We could run Facade if our opponent tries to burn us. We could go for that. Fire Punch also is good for like water types. I almost just said steel types, but fighting types are kind of bodied. Fire Punch is mainly just good for something like a Scizor, but we don't think we'll have to worry about that too much. What else do we get? Gunk Shot, probably going to be one of our top poison moves we're going for. It hits pretty hard on the physical side with poison type, and also the 30% chance to poison, so that is pretty nice as well. A lot of chances to poison is a very, very nice thing. Lash Out for Psychic types is pretty nice because Pokemon's 4 times weak to Psychic. So it does give me a way of dealing with those. Same thing with Night Slash. Poison Jab will probably be our bread and butter poison stab of choice, because it doesn't have the 20% chance to miss that Gunk Shot runs. Protect is here as well. Quick Attack for priority. It does get access to Rock Slide and Shadow Claw, which is kind of neat. Sludge Bomb, Sludge Wave. Swords Dance is what we like to see. Lets this thing hit super freaking hard. Double its attack stat in 1 turn. Does get access to Taunt as well. So if I wanted to run a more utility Sneasler with specifically Toxic Spikes, that's something we could do. It also does get access to Throat Chop for Psychics as well, Trailblaze to boost its speed, and then a really good couple of bug moves in X-Scissor and U-Turn for Momentum. I really like having Momentum on my Pokemon team, so I'm really excited that we were able to get a Pokemon turn 1 with Momentum. As for like movesets this thing could run, like I could literally just run this moveset and I'd be kind of chilling. Like, full disclosure, like I could honestly just be kind of good. So I could do Acrobatics, Close Combat, Poison Jab, plus Swords Dance. And honestly, like, is there anything that really stops me from running this? Like, unless I get, like, taunted. But Sneasler's so fast, and with the Unburden, too, I might be outspeeding most taunters. So the only thing we have to worry about is something with, like, Prankster. So there's really no reason why I can't run this at any point during the season if I wanted to. But Sneasler does have a lot of utility as well, like I mentioned with the T-Spikes, with the Subtoxic Pressure Stalling set, with a Poison Touch set as well. There's lots of different ways this Pokemon can be run. It's very versatile. Also gets access to Momentum, which I love. So I was super excited to get this thing, and I'm really looking forward to giving Sneasler a go in the NBA. As for team names, I haven't really thought of like a motif yet. I think what we'll do is we'll go Fire Emblem characters for this one. Shout out to my boy Jurt YT. So we are gonna name you, male and female, right? I am gonna name you. Let me just make sure I'm getting the right character's name. I don't know how they spell it. Okay, I did get it right. So we are gonna name you Saber. Saber the Sneasler. I think that's a pretty good fit. All right. So as for our second pick, I was trying to think of a Pokemon that would synergize well with Sneasler. There were a couple of things I had my eye on, but then I just said, you know what? Screw it. I want to use Kyurem. So I took it, and I am so excited about using this Pokemon. It's not even funny. This also gives us a very, very solid other attacker. 125 HP, makes it extremely bulky with its base 90 defenses. It's super solid. And then 130 attack and special attack. So I could run this physical or I could run this thing special. And then the base 95 speed stat is relatively solid. Does get outsped by some common speed tiers, but we can deal with that later. Because Choice Scarf is an option. We also do have other options we could run. Yeah, this Pokemon hits like an absolute truck. I just really wanted to use it. I've seen the power that Kyurem has, and I did not want to face it. So I decided, you know what? Let me just snatch that up so I don't have to face this at any point during the season. So I'm just super excited to get this thing. 130 offenses across the board, and it's so deceptively bulky thanks to its that HP and defense stats. It might not have the best defensive typing, but having that extra little bit of bulk does help it eat hits here and there. As well as for attacks that it gets, it does get access to like a body press, so I could run this thing defensive body press if I wanted to. Body slam as well. Does get access to Draco Meteor to just hit something like an absolute nuke. Dragon Claw, Dragon Dance to boost my attack and my speed by 1 stage. Dragon Pulse if I don't want to use Draco Meteor and lower my special attack. If I want to run this thing defensive with Dragon Tail Body Press, I realistically could do that. Also does get access to Earth Power as well for Steel types, because Steel types kind of wall this thing, but not anymore thanks to Earth Power, as well as something like a Focus Blast. Does get access to Flash Cannon as well for Fairies, Freeze Dry for Water types. It has so much moves and utility, man. I love it. Ice Beam is going to be its bread and butter Ice Stab outside of maybe Freeze Dry. Icicle Spear could be interesting if I wanted to run like a Dragon Dance loaded dice set, because with loaded dice, this would be guaranteed to hit at least 4 times. So it would roughly be a 100 base power ice type move before stab on the physical side. So basically it would be at a 150 stab move guaranteed. That is kind of ludicrous, especially at +1 thanks to Dragon Dance. So if I ran like a Dragon Dance loaded dice Icicle Spear set, it just kind of clicks buttons and wins. Like it truthfully does just kind of click buttons and wins. Another physical move it gets for Fairies is Iron Head. Outrage on the physical side as well. Does get Psychic, which could be a little bit of a tech utility as well. Roar for that defensive stat, like I mentioned earlier. It has reliable recovery in Roost. Also gets access to Substitute. This could just be a set. Like, I know it's not a very good one, but if I just need like a late game cleanup, Sub, Roost, DD, Icicle Spear could just be that clean option that I need. It's super good. It also gets access to Rock Slide, Shadow Ball, Shadow Claw, Signal Beam, so many different types of moves. Unfortunately, it's not a Tera Pokemon, so I cannot use Tera Blast on this thing, sadly, because I feel like that'd be kind of insane if I actually could. It does also get access to moves like Toxic, Weather Ball, and Zen Headbutt. Basically, variety is the spice of life, and this Pokemon could be run any which way I want. Like, my imagination is the, what's the word I'm looking for? My imagination is basically the limit. Whatever I want to do to this Pokemon, like running it, I can run it, and that's what I'm really excited about. Again, I love versatility with my drafts. I get my Dragon type, I get a really solid Ice type, really solid offensive Ice type with decent defensive capabilities, even though Ice is a very bad defensive typing. So I'm just super hyped to get this thing, man. I could not be more excited to have this thing on my team. As for a nickname for you, I think, I don't know what I want to name this thing. What's the one dragon chick from Silver Snow? Silver Snow Fire Emblem. What is her name? What is her name? I actually don't know. But she's the one who, like, transforms into the dragon. How do I... What is your name, girl? I keep wanting this... Is it Rhea? It is Rhea. We're gonna name you Rhea. I think that fits. Because she turned into a big dragon. She's kind of an ice queen. And then the silver snow roots, because it's an ice type. You guys get it. You guys get it. So that was our second pick here. So after this, I had a while between my current pick and my next pick because I was on a wheel. So I had to wait through 9 through 1, then back up through 1 through 10. So a lot of Pokemon were taken. I'll be honest, the Pokemon I wanted to get next was Heatran. Heatran was unfortunately sniped from me, so because of that, I was not able to get that Pokemon. But I decided to get something that would pair nicely with both Saber and Rhea here. Something that would give me a very solid wall breaker, some defensive utility, as well as some passive recovery for the team. And I know I mentioned earlier about the idea of a Grassy Seed. Well, that is because your boy has taken Tapu Bulu. Ban Bulu indeed. This Pokemon hits like an absolute truck. It is the highest attack stat we've seen on our team, tied with Kyurem actually, with base 130 attack. Its speed leaves a little bit to be desired, but it does have some decent defensive properties. Like 70 HP and 115 defense is pretty solid, allowing it to be like a decent physically defensive mon, especially into something like a water type or a grass type. And then 95 special defense isn't too bad either. Like I said, speed's not great at base 75, but it does get the Grassy Surge, which will summon the grassy terrain to the field. And with Terrain Extender, I could make my grassy terrain last for 8 turns instead of 5. So I could get the passive recovery plus the Grassy Seed onto Saber. I could get the grassy terrain recovery onto Rhea. So coupled with like a Roost and then behind the sub, getting that little bit of passive recovery, making sure it's topped off nice and healed. It is very, very helpful and synergizes very, very well, I think. And then otherwise, like, this Pokemon just hits like an absolute truck, like I said. The Grassy Terrain does boost the power of our Grass-type moves. So Grassy Terrain boosted Wood Hammer hits like an absolute freaking truck. And also does get access to a lot of other good moves as well. Close Combat for Steel types is pretty nice because they resist both Grass moves and Fairy moves. Darkest Lariat's there is here as well for hitting Psychic types, which is pretty nice. Dazzling Gleam, we're probably not going to run you special, most likely. Does get access to Facade if something tries to burn me, which is nice. I could, if I wanted to, run like a Giga Drain plus Leech Seed with like a Big Root set. That's something we could do. We also get High Horsepower, which thankfully is not weakened by our Grassy Terrain, so we don't have to worry about that. And it is a very, very solid attacking move. 95 power, 95 attack accuracy. Ground move is pretty solid. Not quite as good as Earthquake, but pretty close. Also gets Horn Leech to heal itself as well, because it recovers 50% of the damage dealt, which is kind of ludicrous. Does get access to Iron Defense. Unfortunately, no Body Press, but we can boost our defense up a little bit. A little bit of Leech Seed action as well. Get some passive recovery. Mega Horn is here for bug coverage. Nature's Madness to cut the target's HP in half, guaranteed, as long as it hits, because that 90 accuracy is a bit iffy. And trust me, I miss those. We also get access to Roar for defensive utility, Rock Slide, Seed Bomb as well is here for grass coverage, gets access to Sub, Superpower, SD to boost my physical attack even higher, Synthesis for healing, I can taunt the opponent and make them have to attack me, which is pretty cool. Gets access to Toxic, Whirlwind, it has some defensive capabilities, like Whirlwind, Leech Seed, Protect, Horn Leech is kind of solid, sitting with like a taunt set, it's pretty good. The only thing, like I mentioned, is that the speed is not great, but that Wood Hammer in the grassy terrain, man, hitting like an absolute truck is just so wonderful. It's super solid. Unfortunately, this thing does not get Play Rough, which is very upsetting because it does not really have any good Fairy-type moves outside of Nature's Madness. So, not really a way to hit something with a Fairy-type physical move because it does not get one. But, so that's a bit of a downside, but at the same time, getting the guaranteed 50% from Nature's Madness is pretty solid. And Nature's Madness into Wood Hammer probably KOs most things. So it makes up for it, I suppose, in the long run. But yeah, this Pokemon hits like a truck, can eat up some defensive hits, and just be pretty solid. Plus, the grassy terrain does weaken most ground-type attacks, and Saber is weak to ground. So not having to worry about that is pretty solid. The only things, like I mentioned earlier, is like the high horsepower or like an earth power, but it does weaken Earthquake. I believe it also weakens Bulldoze and a couple other moves like that. So if a trainer thinks they can spam Earthquake into us, they are not going to be able to, because we've got this Bulu right here, as well as a couple of other Pokemon that you'll see later who are going to be very, very helpful to us. Yeah, I was super hyped to get Bulu. I wanted to do Bulu Heatran because I know that's apparently a very popular core, but it happens and I was not able to do so. As for a nickname for this thing, I wonder what would be a good nickname for you. I'm gonna name you Raphael, my big boy Raphael. Raphael the Tapu Bulu. Alright, so I've got some really good offensive Pokemon. We can definitely say that. And while my offensive Pokemon have some decent utility, I think it's time we pick up some bulk, because we are a little bit lacking in that at the moment. So I decided I wanted to go ahead and pick up some bulk this round. I wanted something that could take on fire types, because our team doesn't do too well into those at the moment, because we can get burned on Sneasler, Ice Resist is resisted by fire, and then Bulu is weak to it. So I want to try and get a water type for this round. I know Freeze Dry is a thing, but still, it should be fine. So the Pokemon I wanted to do, which again also has very good synergy with the Kyurem, is I went ahead and I picked up Slowking. So a couple things with Slowking. Number one, Chilly Reception, baby. So this is a momentum move that does set up the snow as well. So if you don't know, Ice types this generation got a buff with the new snowy weather that gives them a 1.5 times defense boost to their physical defense, not special defense, while snow is active. So Slowking can go for the Chilly Reception, swap out into Kyurem, and now Kyurem is even bulkier on the physical side. It is super, super good. I love the capabilities that Chilly Reception does give me. It allows this thing to kind of pass to my Kyurem and just give it that extra little bit of bulk it needs to kind of 1v1 the opponent. Plus, Slowking also has a phenomenal ability in Regenerator, making it so that whenever we switch out, we are given 1/3 of our maximum HP healed back up. So coupled with Chilly Reception, not only am I getting the momentum and getting the snow up for Kyurem, but I'm also healing Slowking in the process. It makes it super solid. I could run this thing with a bunch of different items like Assault Vest. I could run Leftovers if I wanted to. Maybe an Eject button if I needed to. There's lots of different moves I could put on this thing. Maybe I could even run this thing offensive one week with Choice Spec Slowking. More often than not, we're probably going to either run Assault Vest or Leftovers. Because Slowking's special defense is so high. It's base 110 with base 95 HP. So it lets it eat up hits for days. And then base 100 special attack is pretty solid too. Like, it's not amazing, but Slowking hits harder than you would think, and it gets good coverage. What's good too with with how slow Slowking is, as I'm sure you can tell by the name, is that it helps us to pick up momentum based on whatever the opponent does. Since Slowking is going to be going slower than most Pokemon, we can use Chilly Reception for guaranteed momentum based on what the opponent does, whether they switch out or whether they attack me. I can get almost guaranteed momentum because we're going to be going slower. So while we might have to eat an extra hit, we also are getting the extra momentum, but then we have Regenerator, so we're also healing it up at the same time. So it has some very good synergy with my Kyurem, being able to give it that defense boost, give me momentum to the entire team. And it also does get access to a pretty big variety of moves. It gets Blizzard, which could be helpful in the snow as well, because Blizzard is a guaranteed hit in snow. It gets access to Calma if I wanted to run a specially offensive Slowking one week. I also get access to Counter, so Counter AV could be a thing. Like, if a Pokemon's going to U-turn out on my Slowking, I could go for the Counter on whatever comes in next and do a very solid amount of damage to it. I could also get Disable if I wanted to get rid of a certain move that the Pokemon's going for. Dragon Tail to force things out. Does get access to Drain Punch and Earth Queen for some stupid reason. Also gets Fire Blast and Flamethrower, which gives it some coverage for Grass and Steel types, which is pretty freaking solid, as well as Bug types too, because this Pokemon's weak to Bug. Pretty solid. Gets access to Focus Blast. Future Sight is very solid, base 120 and hits 2 turns after being used. It'll sneak up on you, like you're already going to be taking damage in a certain turn, and then also you're taking a base 120 psychic attack from base 100 special attack on top of that. It's really good. It also gets Grass Knot for some grass coverage, a little bit of Hydro Pump action, Ice Beam for ice coverage. Does get access to Iron Defense if I want to boost that. gets dual screens, so I can boost my physical defense and special defense. Magic Coat to prevent hazards being set up. Nasty Plot to boost my special attack. Power Gem for rock coverage, because who knows why. Psychic and Psy Shock to make sure I can hit with pretty solid Psychic type stab. And then Psychic Noise to prevent my opponent from being able to heal is pretty nice as well. Like I mentioned, dual screens. Scald having a 30% chance to burn the opponent is super, super solid. Because Slowking's physical defense is not as good as its special defense. So a lot of time Pokemon that are going to be switching into Slowking are going to be physical attackers. So if we could have that 30% chance to catch him on switch in with a burn, that could be pretty nice. Shadow Ball for ghost types, Signal Beams for dark types, Slack Off to heal myself, gets reliable recovery, which we love. I could run Cold Mind, Stored Power. If I didn't want to run Chilly Reception, I could run Teleport for extra momentum. Surf is another powerful water-type stab. Gets access to both Thunder Wave and Toxic for spreading some status around. Gets access to Trick Room to swap around those speed dimensions. Yawn to put things to sleep. It gets access to 4 statuses. Because technically it gets Freeze, Poison. Actually gets technically access to all 5. Because Thunder Wave, Toxic, Yawn, Burn from Flamethrower or Fire Blast, and Freeze from Ice Beam or Blizzard. Pretty solid. This Pokemon has such good utility. I'm super excited to have it on the team, especially thanks to the Chilly Reception that we're going to have. It's super good. I cannot wait to use this thing. I've wanted to use Slowking for a while, so I'm really excited that we're going to be able to use it here. Oh, excuse me. And then as for, like, nicknames, I'm not really sure what I want to do. For a nickname for this thing, I think let's go for... I'm gonna name it Linhardt. I'm gonna name it Linhardt, my king. I'm pretty sure that's how you spell it, right? Linhardt just always wants to be taking a nap, man, and I kind of respect that. Oh, it's just one N. Linhardt the Slowking. There we go. Alright, so... next up, I have a Dragon type. I have a Fairy type. I want a Steel type. Not only do I want a Steel type, I want a Steel type that gives me good utility, gives me momentum, can set up and sweep, gets reliable recovery, and has really good priority as well as a phenomenal ability to go with it, and is also my Tera captain. One of my Tera captains, I should say. So I wanted to go ahead and I picked up Scizor. I am so hyped to get this thing, dude. So, starting off with Tera typing. The way Tera typings work in this game is we have 25 Tera points that we are allotted. We can pick 2 Pokemon using those 25 points that can Tera. So each Pokemon costs a certain amount of points and everything, just like how the normal draft was. So for this draft, we had 120 points to get between 9 and 11 Pokemon, and 2 of them were Tera Pokemon that could not add up to more than 25. So Scizor was 15, which means we had 10 points left over. So just as a quick heads up for you. But great thing with Tera Scizor is that it only has one weakness. It only is weak to fire. So what's stopping me from terastallizing into a water type? No, not dark. Water. What's stopping me from terastallizing into a water type on fire type attacks and being like, no, I'm okay. I'm going to use this instead to set up on you. It just kind of shuts it down from there. I could also terastallize into a Steel type with Tera Steel, Sword Stance, and Bullet Punch, coupled with my Technician ability. That could be super helpful. Let's see if I want to run like Leftovers or something. If I wanted to run like Tera Fairy to catch like a Dragon type. If I wanted to run Tera Fire myself with like Tera Fire, Tera Blast for other Steel types as well. The sky is the limit because I can terastallize any type that I want. It's super good. I could run this thing Choice Band. I could go Leftovers, Assault Vest to make it specially defensive. Expert Belt, Focus Sash maybe. Go straight up power with Life Orb Scizor. There's so much capability this Pokemon has. Technician, the way it works is any moves that this Pokemon has that are 60 power or less have 1.5 times power before stab. So Bullet Punch is normally 40 power, but thanks to Technician, it gets up to 60 power. And then thanks to Stab, it gets up to 90 power. And then if I went Tera Steel, I think it gets by 30% again. So I think it'd be technically 120 base power priority move. Coming from a +2 Sword Stance, dude. It hits super freaking hard with 130 special attack, or physical attack, excuse me. Noticing a lot of 130s. We have a lot of 130s going around. And then also it's got surprisingly decent bulk. 70 HP with 100 defense makes it pretty solidly physically defensive. And then with Assault Vest and Spadef, it is pretty solid as an Assault Vest user as well. Just spamming like Bullet Punch, Trailblaze maybe, Bug Bite, and then insert fourth move here. So it has a lot of capability and a lot of versatility as well. It hits super hard, can be defensive if I wanted to. It's really solid, man. Also gets access to U-Turn for momentum, which we like to see. Does get access to Baton Pass for momentum as well. I believe it's Baton Pass is legal, but I cannot pass stats. Gives Aerial Ace as well as Acrobatics. So I could run some flying coverage on this thing. Brick Break to get rid of the, what's it called? The screens. Close Combat for fighting coverage as well. Gives Counter if I want to run this thing physically defensive. Gives me access to a Defogger to remove hazards, which is pretty nice. Technician Dual Wing Beat hits twice in one turn, which will probably be the flying type coverage I do go for if we decide to run this thing with flying coverage, because they get taken up to 60 base power each, thanks to Technician. Gives access to Facade if somebody wants to burn me. Iron Defense does get access to that to boost that. Sadly, again, no body press. Knock off is solid to get rid of items. Gets access to Lunge. For some reason, this thing gets Morning Sun. I don't know why. We also get Roost, so there's that. Psycho Cut is solid for some psychic coverage. Does get access to Pursuit, and I believe Pursuit is legal. So I can use Pursuit to catch like unsuspecting psychic types, which could be really good. Like I said, gets access to Roost to heal me back up, get reliable recovery going. Superpower, whatever. Swords Dance is going to be super solid to boost my physical attack. Tailwind if I want to go for a little bit of utility to double my allies' speed as well as my own. Does get access to Tera Blast, like I said, so I could go Tera Fire on this thing, Tera Water. So many different Tera typings that I want to choose between. Toxic for a physically defensive set could be good to wear down the opponent. Trailblaze to boost my speed if I want to run that, because it is also boosted by Technician, making it 75 base power grass coverage. Not bad at all. U-Turn for momentum. X-Scissor is also there. Probably not going to run X-Scissor when I think Bug Bite is available. Oh no, Bug Bite's not a thing? Oh no! I guess we want to run Bug coverage. It's probably going to end up being U-Turn or X-Scissor. Because Lunge is base 80, and I'm not running specially Bug Buzz. Okay, no, Bug Bite is here. It's base 60. So Bug Bite gets taken up to base 90, and then after Stab, it becomes base 130. Excuse me, no, not 130. 120. So that's really... Oh, no, 135, because half of 95 would be 45, so 135. So 135 base power bug move that also can eat the target's berry. So it's pretty solid. It gets access to a lot of really cool moves. I could run Technician Cut if I wanted to, guys. Like, I don't know what else y'all want from me. Yeah, this Pokemon gets a lot of access to really cool, solid moves. I'm super hyped. I've never really used a Scizor, so hopefully I'll be able to put in work with this thing. Thanks to its solid stats, solid move pool, and having the ability to Terastallize, hopefully I'll be able to put in some good amount of work with this guy right here. And then as for what I want to name this thing, I don't think it really fits that much, but I'm naming this after my queen, Lucina. I know it's not blue, but it fits like the metal motif. I don't know, man. I just love her. I need to name a Pokemon Lucina, and if it's not going to be Saber, it's going to be Scizor. I guess I could swap their names. Now that I think about it, I could swap their names. We might do that. We'll see. So, I have a fire type. I don't have a fire type yet, and I really want one. I also want something that can deal with hazard control and remove them. I want something that pairs well with Raphael as well as Linhardt. That can remove hazards, has some good defensive and offensive capabilities, reliable recovery, and basically just all around be annoying. And if you don't know, one of the best counters to Scizor in the entire game is Moltres. So, you know what I said? If you can't beat him, take him. So that's exactly what I did. I took Moltres because I did not want to fight this thing. In the DAPL, I kind of got walled hardcore by this Pokemon, so I said, no more, it is on my team. So it gets access to 2 phenomenal abilities and Pressure, allowing me to pressure stall the opponent with like Will-O-Wisp or Toxic, as well as Roost for reliable recovery, or the bread and butter of Flame Body, giving me a 30% chance to make any Pokemon that makes contact with me receive a burn, which is super, super nice. So unless they're running like protective pads or have something like Decidueye Long Reach, which I don't even think Decidueye was drafted. Actually, it might have been. Then they cannot. Then they have a 30% chance to get burned by me every single time they attack me. As for moves, for items I could run this thing AV with like U-turn, Flamethrower, Air Slash, and insert fourth move here. Leftovers are pretty nice to get some extra recovery. I could even run Rocky Helmet if I wanted to. Leftovers Rocky Helmet. I could run Rocky Helmet if I wanted to really hinder physical attackers, making them take damage and have a chance to get burned by me, which is pretty solid. So it's got some good defensive utility. As for stats, these stats are really solid across the board. Base 90 HP and 90 defense allows it to be a pretty decent physically defensive Pokemon. And then base 125 special attack also lets it hit surprisingly hard on the special side as well. And then base 90 speed, solid, and base 85 Spadef is not too bad. It lets it eat a couple of special defensive hits. But overall, this thing's either going to be run offensive on the special side, or maybe defensively, physically defensively, to just kind of eat up hits on the physical side for days, because it gets access to Will-O-Wisp. So Will-O-Wisp has an 85% chance to hit and just straight up burns the target. So again, really hindering the physical attackers, getting that Will-O-Wisp off to make sure they cannot hit me very hard at all, and just kind of generally being a pain in the butt. That is the goal for this Pokemon. As for other moves it does get Air Slash for a flying type stab. Gets access to Roost for reliable recovery. Flamethrower is also here for reliable damage on the for fire stab. Also gets access to U-turn for momentum. What else do you get? Ancient Power, neat. Does give me another Defogger, which I like. So I could run Scizor all-out offensive and use Moltres as more of a defog utility Pokemon if I wanted to, while using U-turn for momentum and stuff. Also gets access to extra sensory for psychic coverage, flamethrower, fire blast. Gets access to I think hidden power is illegal in this. Hurricane for even more powerful flying type stab. Because base 110, 70 accurate, so we probably won't run it that much because I miss those. Trust me, I do. Gets access to Morning Sun in addition to Roost, so if the opponent is bringing a Sun team, I can take advantage of that and heal myself up a little extra. It also does get access to Roar as well to phase opposing Pokemon out. Roost for reliable recovery. Scorching Sands for ground type coverage for rock types. As well as poison types, and for just physical attackers in general, having a 30% chance to burn is pretty nice. It's basically just a little bit weaker Scald, and then it's a ground type instead of a water type, but it's still really, really solid. Gives access to Sub for the substitute pressure stalling sets, like I mentioned. Tailwind for utility as well to boost my team's speed. Gets Toxic as well to spread a little bit of poison around. Whirlwind to phase out opponents in addition to Roar. U-turn for momentum, and then Will-O-Wisp, like I said, to be annoying and burn the opponent. So yeah, Moltres is going to be pretty solid for us. I think it pairs really nicely with Linhardt. Linhardt being able to take specially defensive hits, and Moltres being able to take the physical ones. Stinks that I have two Pokemon that are weak to electric, but we do have Raphael here to sponge up those electric type hits, as well as some other Pokemon that you will see later on. So we've got a couple of options here to help Moltres be successful. A couple of different ways it can be run. So yeah, I really wanted this thing. I didn't want to face it, especially having Scizor on my team, so I decided to go ahead and snatch it up for myself. As for what we want to name you, I think I'm going to name you Sita. I think that fits. Sure, why not? Alright, so those were our first 6 picks. And like I mentioned, you have to have a minimum of 9. So I ended up picking 10 Pokemon. I'll just be straight up with you guys. I ended up picking 10. For my next pick, we are allowed to use Mega Evolutions. And there were a couple of Megas I had my eye on. Mainly the first one I was looking at was Mega Kangaskhan. But I had so many physically offensive Pokemon already, I didn't know if I wanted to put it on the team or not. And I was thinking, well, there's a certain type that I don't have yet that I think is always really good on draft teams, and that's an electric type. And I wanted an electric type that hit on the special side, because special attacking electric types are just better, because there's not really that many good physical electric moves, and like I have a lot of physical attackers as is. So I wanted a Mega that was an electric type, hit pretty hard, was pretty fast, and had some good utility as well. So the Pokemon I decided to pick was Mega Manectric. So as a Mega Evolved Pokemon, it does get access to Intimidate to lower the opponent's physical attack by 1, which is pretty solid. And then as a base stage, it has Lightning Rod. So it does give me an electric immunity that will also boost my special attack. So if I know the opponent's going to go for like an electric type move, like if they're choiced in with like a Thunderbolt or even like a Thunder or something, I could bring in Manectric, get my free +1 thanks to Lightning Rod, Mega Evolve, lower the incoming Pokemon's physical attack, and then either fire off my Thunderbolt of my own, fire off a Volt Switch to give me momentum, or just go all out with another attack. So it's got some pretty good utility, and it hits super hard and is super fast. This is the highest offensive stat we've seen on our team so far with base 135 special attack. With Modest, this thing is 405 special attack. That might seem like a lot, but I honestly it's not huge, but it's super solid in my opinion. And then it also does have base 135 speed, being the fastest member of my team at the moment, allowing it to outrun a lot of very common Pokemon and hit very hard while doing so. Like I mentioned, it does get Volt Switch for momentum, which does give me free switch-ins and stuff, while also doing very solid damage thanks to that base 135 special attack. So momentum, hitting really hard is super nice. Gets Discharge for a chance to roll a 30% chance to Para, so not bad there. Also gets access to Flamethrower for fire-type coverage, for stuff like grass types, for ice types, for steel types. It's super helpful to get that little bit of extra coverage. Again, it might not be stat, but it does still hit pretty hard. Hidden Power is illegal, unfortunately, so I think that's why this Pokemon only cost me 6 points. But even still, I think it was pretty good value overall. Because honestly, there's nothing really stopping me from just running this set every week. Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, and insert fourth move here. I could even just go Discharge, man. Just Discharge for a chance to Para. Or if I could also run Signal Beam for just a little bit of extra coverage. What else could I do? I think that's about it. Like I said, this Pokemon doesn't have a lot of utility, but what it does very well. So Discharge having that 30% chance to Para could be pretty good. Otherwise, like, I'm probably not going to be running anything besides this. I guess I could technically run Hyper Voice, or maybe run, like, Light Screen or something for, like, a little bit of extra utility. Does not get Reflect, unfortunately, but getting the Light Screen up could be helpful for team members in the back. Does get Signal Beam, like I mentioned, for coverage if we want to run that route. Otherwise, it does get Thunder Wave to spread a little bit of paralysis around. So yeah, it doesn't have a ton of utility, but what it does do very, very well, in my opinion. So it might not be the best Mega, but it's a solid electric type that hits pretty hard, is extremely fast. So I figured it would be a good choice for us to grab on this team. As for a nickname for you, who do we want to name you after? I could just go basic because he's yellow and name him after Claude. That is the option we do have. Otherwise, is there a character that has like an electric motif? I'm trying to think of like Awakening. I'm trying to think of like Fire Emblem games I've played. I could name you Catherine. Doesn't she have like that Thunder Sword or whatever? I think that's who I'm thinking of. Am I thinking of the right character? Is that her name? Let me look her up. Catherine Fire Emblem. Yeah, she's got like a thunder-ish sword or something. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure she has like a thundery sword or something. I don't know, man. Somewhere. Oh yeah, she's called Thunderstrike Catherine. Perfect. Catherine, you shall be named, which means you're probably gonna be female each week. So happy days for you. So like I mentioned earlier, we can get 2 Pokemon that can Terrastalize. And I already picked Scizor, and Scizor cost me 15 points. So that means my Tera Captain has to be 10 points or under in order to be able to be eligible to Terrastalize. So I decided to pick up a Tera Captain that synergizes well with the weather that I've got on the team. So the one that I decided to pick up in this case, because we're going a snow route, because we've already got Kyurem, we've got Chilly Reception from Slowking, is I decided to go Tera Beartic, baby. So Snowcloak is banned, so I cannot run that, unfortunately. But Slush Rush does double my speed, if the snow is active. And it also does give me the defense boost, like it does for Kyurem for the 1.5 times when snow is active. So that is super helpful as well. And Beartic is pretty slow. So if I instead had snow up and I ran max speed on this thing, it would now be at essentially 398 speed. So it's still not the fastest Pokemon on the field, but it allows it to be extremely fast. And then the base 95 HP and 80 defense does help it a lot as well when it comes to eating up physical hits, especially in the snow. And then attack-wise, look at this attack stat. So if I ran Adamant, 360 attack, base 130 attack is super solid, especially if I ran something like a Choice Band set. Like, Choice Band Icicle Crash. Where is your switching? I see none. Where is your switching? There, it does not exist. Base 85 attack coming from this thing. It does have a 90% accuracy, so again, I missed those. But still, it allows it to hit super hard thanks to that defense boost, as well as just having a base 130 physical attack stat. And then Slush Rush doubling the speed is super solid. I finally have a Pokemon that gets Body Press, so that's kind of neat. Also gets pretty good fighting coverage in the Brick Break as well as Close Combat. Crunch is here as well for Dark coverage, gets access to Earthquake, which doesn't synergize too well with my grassy terrain, but it is nice to have an option for Steel types outside of Close Combat. Focus Punch is here because sure, why not? Heavy Slam is also there. I could go Ice Punch, I could go Icicle Spear, Loaded Dice if I wanted to. I could go Liquidation, so I could, since this is my other Tera captain, I could run Tera Water Liquidation. And again, now fire types become free setup fodder for me. So I could go Slush Rush, Swords Dance, with Icicle Crash, Liquidation, and like Close Combat. And I am technically at 398 speed with extra bulk thanks to the snow that is currently up. And honestly, like, what do you do from here? Like, it just kind of goes kind of in. And I think Joey Pokeyam said it best, what do you have for a well-played Beartic? So hopefully we can get a little well-played Beartic sweep going. That'd be pretty nice. Also gets Endeavor, so if I want to run like a Sash lead on this thing. Gets access to Hone Claws, multiple forms of Ice Stab in Ice Punch, Icicle Crash, Icicle Spear. So I could, like I said, run the Loaded Dice with the Icicle Spear if I didn't want to run Crash, because Crash has a chance to miss, whereas Spear does not, which is very nice. I could also run Low Kick for fighting coverage if I don't want to run CC. Play Rough is here for fairy coverage. Power Up Punch if I'm feeling shisty. Does get access to Roar to phase out opponents. Rock Slide, Shadow Claw, Stone Edge. Gets access to Superpower, Taunt. It does get Terra Blast, so if I wanted to run Terra Fire, I could do that. Also gets Throat Chop, Trailblaze, X-Scissor, Yawn. Has access to a wide variety of moves. Honestly, am I going to run Beartic physically defensive during the season? Probably not. It's going to probably do one thing, but it's going to do that one thing very well. It's going to get Chilly Receptioned in to set up a Swords Dance on something, Terrastallize into a typing that fits it pretty well, and then just kind of run shop on the opponent. So I could even run Icy Rock on my Slowking if I wanted to really up that snow going on. Let this thing hit harder for even longer, and just be in downright menace to the opposing team. Like I said again, what do you have for a well-played Beartic? Alright. So as for names on this guy, is there any like Fire Emblem characters with an ice motif? Ice, Fire Emblem character. I don't know Fire Emblem characters outside of the games I've played. Is it just like a character name? Who's Flora? Cold as ice. I don't know who you are. Is there anybody who like, I don't know, man. Fire Emblem games with ice attacks, cool. Is there anything that would fit you well, buddy? What fits a Beartic pretty well? I'm just gonna kind of like scroll through and see if I can see anything that stands out to me. I'm just gonna name you Dedue. I can't think of anything else. I'm just gonna name you. I'll name you Dimitri. I'm gonna name you Dimitri. I think. I like that. Let's name you Dimitri. I think. How do you spell Dimitri? How do you spell Dimitri? Dimitri. Fire Emblem. All right, so it is D-I-M. Okay. Dimitri, the Beartic. Why not? Why not? Who cares? He kind of looks like Beartic a little bit in his time skip pose, I suppose. Alright, so we have 2 picks left. One Pokemon typing I do not currently have on the team is a ground type, and ground types are super helpful. They are the only Pokemon that are immune to electric. Otherwise, Volt Switch is just kind of free. So it's important to draft yourself a ground type so your opponent cannot just freely Volt Switch around your entire team forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So I decided to go ahead and pick one up. I wanted one that was decently offensive but also relatively defensive. Also had access to hazards was pretty important because I currently don't have those on my team. So the one I decided to end up picking up was Sandaconda. So this Pokemon also gets access to weather. It does get Sand Spit, so if I'm hit by a move, I can set up Sandstorm afterwards, which is something that I could do if I felt like changing up the weather. Otherwise, it does get Shed Skin, which is super helpful because I could, I have a, how much percent chance? A 33% chance to cure my stats condition, so I could run Rest on this thing if I wanted to, with Shed Skin for decently reliable recovery. I could also run Resto Chesto if I wanted to. I could run Leftovers on this thing. Maybe Rocky Helmet if I wanted to run it, because it has pretty solid physical defense, as you guys can see, base 125. This thing also does get access to Scale Shot, so I could run Loaded Dice Scale Shot on this thing if I wanted to and make it a physically offensive sweeper with like Coil or something. So I could run Coils, Scale Shot, Earthquake plus, or even High Horsepower if I had Grassy Terrain up. So High Horsepower, and then maybe something like a Iron Head or like a Rock Blast maybe. Something like this set is something we could do in the future, thanks to the loaded dice. It also does have a pretty solid HP and defense stat to let me sponge up some extra physical hits, making so Moltres might not have to deal with everything. It is a rock resist, which is helpful because Moltres does not like that type of moves. It also does get access to hazards, like I mentioned. It does get Stealth Rock. I don't believe it gets Spikes. It does not get Spikes. It does get access to Glare, which is just a guaranteed paralysis, which is helpful. So my team isn't the fastest, outside of like a couple of big threats like Sneasler and Mega Manectric. So being able to go for Glare and slow them down is super helpful. So that's really, really nice. Another Pokemon that gets access to Endeavor, Drill Run as well, Body Slam to spread paralysis around as well, Body Press to couple with Coil if I wanted to. Also gets Iron Defense, so I could go Iron Defense Body Press, Protect, Iron Head for Fairies, does get Outrage, so neat. Scorching Sands to get some burn action going around. Does also get Sub, and yeah, it has some pretty good solid defensive utility overall, allowing it to either be defensive one week or offensive to the next. And it prevents the Pokemon from just freely clicking Volt Switch into my team, which scares the daylights out of me. So I wanted to avoid that at all costs, so I decided to go ahead and draft the Sandaconda right here. Now, as for your name, buddy, I'm trying to think of like a Fire Emblem character that betrays you. What's the guy's name? Fire Emblem Echoes characters. What was the guy's name who's like originally a part of Clive's army and then he defects? I want to name him that because he's a snake. What is his name? What is your name, buddy? Fernand. We're gonna call you Fernand because you're a snake, my dude. Fernand the Snake. I love it. I think it fits so perfectly. Let's go, dude. And then finally, the final member of our team. So, I'm not gonna lie, this is the Pokemon I felt the least confident picking up. I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I know I didn't have a normal type. I know I didn't have a dark type. So I decided to go ahead and take the combination of the two because I had 10 points left and this Pokemon cost me 10 points, so I figured might as well spread a little normal stab, a little dark stab around. So I ended up picking up the Obstagoon. This is the one Pokemon I'm not too sold on yet. I might end up dropping this thing. We'll see in the future. But it does have some really good abilities. So it does get Reckless. So any moves that have recoil have their attack increased by 1.2 times. So it lets us hit a little bit harder. Also gets Guts. So Guts boosted Facade with Stab allows it to hit super hard. And then Defiant, it does raise my attack by 2 if any of my other stats are lowered. So 3 phenomenal abilities here, honestly. I could run this thing with a Flame Orb to burn myself if I wanted to, and then take advantage of the Guts from there. And then go with like Facade or something. So like I said, Stab Facade. I could run this thing with like an Assault Vest if I wanted to and just go all out with attacks. With like maybe something like a Defiant or a Reckless. That could be pretty helpful. I could run this thing Choice Scarf because it's base 95 speed. So that Choice Scarf could give it that little bit of extra speed. Needs to be phenomenal. Could run lefties on this thing. Life Orb does get access to some pretty solid utility moves. So let's take a look at those. Does get Body Press as well as Bulk Up to boost my physical attack and my defense. Close Combat's here for fighting type coverage. Double Edge to take advantage of that Reckless boost like I mentioned. Fire Punch is helpful for steel types. Does get Gunk Shot for fairies, which is pretty cool. I don't think Close Combat takes advantage of Reckless. I wish it would, but that'd be probably be a little bit broken. Does give me a Stab Knockoff user as well, which is pretty helpful. Stab Knockoff is never a bad thing to have in any type of Pokemon battle. Also has a signature move, Obstruct, preventing it from damaging attacks and lowering the opponent's physical defense by 2 stages. So if they try to hit me with something on the physical side, I could then lower their physical defense and then hit even harder because they're going to be weakened on the physically defensive side, which is pretty helpful. Also get Seed Bomb for grass coverage, Shadow Claw for ghost coverage, even though Dark and Ghost basically do the same things. Stopping Tantrum for ground coverage into steel types if I didn't want to run close combat and lower my defenses. Throat Chop to prevent Hyper Voice is pretty solid. Also does get access to Thunder Wave and Trick to spread a little bit of status and steal opponents' items. And then Scizor is also here for bug coverage. Yeah, again, I'm not too sold on this Pokemon. It does have some stuff it can do pretty well. Like this set right here actually looks pretty solid, like max attack, max speed. It's not bad. It does think it only has base 90 attack. It's not amazing, but it surprisingly has decently solid base defenses. 93 defense and 101, or 93 HP and 101 defense is pretty solid, which might let it be a physically defensive threat. But at the same time, like it is weak to a lot of common types like Fighting and Fairy. So I don't know how often you will see me do that, but it is an option that we do have, so we will see about possibly taking advantage of that thing's pretty solid defense stat. Special attack stat's pretty garbage, but who cares? I'm not running this thing especially offensive anyway. Base 81 special defense isn't too bad, and then base 95 speed is okay. Again, we don't have the best speed tiers outside of our Manectric and our Sneasler, but it's relatively decent. Couple of Pokemon coupled at base 95 isn't the worst thing, I suppose. So I don't know. I'm not too sold on this Pokemon yet. If I do drop a Pokemon, this would probably be the one I did drop. But for now, we'll keep it and see how things go. Maybe we'll end up taking care of that later on down the road. I'm going to name this after my guy, Gaius. My king. My literal king, Gaius. So that is our team that for season of the NBA, the Naheima Battle Association. I'll just run through them again real quick. So we've got Sneasler, Kyurem, Tapu, Bulu, Slowking, Scizor, Moltres, Mega Manectric, Beartic, Sandaconda, and the Obstagoon. That is my team. Let me know what you guys think of the team down in the comments below. I would appreciate your thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you guys think of it. What Pokemon do you think are... What is your favorite team member? What's your least favorite team member? What do you think of the nicknames? Let me know, let me know, let me know. I appreciate all and any feedback, so that way I kind of have an idea of what you guys think about this style of content, as well as just give me an idea of like if you guys like draft videos, what Pokemon you like seeing me use, all that cool stuff as well. But yeah, if you're new around here, definitely consider subscribing. We're on our way to 400 subscribers. It's my end of the year goal. I'd really appreciate if you could help me hit that. Also, leave a like on the video. Helps me out a ton. Lets new people see the content who might be interested. And maybe they want to come and watch some Draft League content as well. But yeah, I'm super hyped for this. I'm really excited to be bringing my own team to the NBA. Yeah, I really like the team we put together. I think it's really solid. I think they have a lot of good utility. We'll see how we're able to do. I'm just kind of hoping for playoffs. Playoffs is the goal. As long as we make playoffs, I'll feel comfortable. Or if we're at least in playoff contention. Basically, just don't go winless and I'm happy. Anyway, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up right here. Like I said, thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. I'm super excited to be a part of the NBA this season. And I hope you will be cheering on your Arcanine Pokemon Club as we take on the league and attempt to bring home a trophy to this new club's name. I really appreciate all the support as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Week 1 battle will be going up next Saturday, so you have that to look forward to. Until then, though, I leave you with this. Peace.